Train people to communicate properly. Train people to receive those communications properly. Don't schedule meetings at horrible times. There are people that do meetings 9 a.m. Monday morning or 4 p.m. Friday afternoon. Both are equally bad. And everybody has specific and graphic descriptors they use for bosses that use those techniques. We've all been there. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Acknowledge when people do a good job. You don't have to give an award for everything, but let them know. Pat on the back goes a long way. A good job goes a long way. A simple acknowledgement. It's more valuable to some people than money. It'll help you keep people, and it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. Don't just give them out to give them out like some places do. Participation awards and stuff like that. When somebody does something that impacts the company in a positive way, nurture that. Embrace it. Tell them the value of it. Notice it. Be aware. Be there in the moment. Be present. So many leaders aren't present, and it hurts them. And they think they are. And they think they know what they're doing, but they're not there in the moment. Come up with a plan, implement the plan, involve all the stakeholders in the plan, nurture the plan, let people be part of it, review and adapt the plan. Think about in your own work history, how many jobs have you had? Think about that for a second. How many jobs have you had? 4, 12, 20? How many did you like? How many did you learn from? When you left a job, why did you leave? Did you leave a job, or like the cliche quote always is, or did you leave a boss? Because most people leave bosses. And there's a difference between a boss, a manager, a supervisor, and a leader. What did you leave, and why did you leave it? It's usually not just for money. It's usually because you in some way felt that you weren't appreciated. There was this intangible thing that had no expense that could have had you stay. A better boss, a better trained boss, a more adult boss, a more accountable boss, a more transparent boss, and a better communicator, or whatever, any combination of these things. We fix that. We fix the workplace. We fix a lot of these problems. So what's the difference between these guys or girls, men or women, or whatever we're talking about? A leader. They focus on goals, resources, directions, clearing log jams. A manager does priorities, planning, options, and clarity. Supervisor focuses on compliance, accuracy, day-to-day implementation of these things. And a boss is on the ground and gets things done. A boss is the guy that keeps the line moving. Many times, a part of the problem is that there's confusion because people think they're being a leader and they're barely being a boss. And they don't get it. They just don't get it. And they keep pushing that square peg in that round hole. And employees suffer. Turnover. Look at turnover. Have you ever worked at a company that's had amazing turnover and they said, oh, that's just the way it is in the industry? And you know it isn't. That's just an excuse. Like we said, people leave bad leadership. They rarely leave a company. If you leave and you're working in an industry and you go to another job in industry for the same, if you're in a position of authority, the company in a position to make change, and you can do that easily. Communicate with people. Put out the old-fashioned suggestion box and listen to people. Something that employees can do is, if you have a bad experience and you try and resolve it within the structure of the company and you do your best, you can go on to Glassdoor, Monster, and other places and review the company. Review the work experience. Do it for the next person. Be honest. Don't be vindictive. Don't attack. But leave an honest review. What was right? What was wrong? Why you left? Why you went there? What you saw? Because maybe it'll help them bring about a change at some point. Now, to all the people out there that are running good companies where they don't have these problems, thank you. Every time I deal, more and more, as I deal with somebody who runs a good company, I am so impressed. I got an email the other day from a company I had ordered something from, and they just wanted to see if I got it. It wasn't a sales pitch. They said, we've had problems with people throwing our packages because of the small size. The delivery drivers throwing them and them getting lost on people's porches and the such, and just want to make sure you actually got the product. And they really cared. And because of that, I will do business with them. I will go out of my way to do business with them when I need more of that product without checking price, because I feel that it's a good company. And it's that kind of, that somebody that treats their customers like that treats their employees good as well. You know it. It's just a value. It's a value that you can't buy, you can't sell. It's either there or it isn't. You can train people for it, but it takes time. One of the things that with reviewing your employment, you see people review businesses, consumers reviewing things, and that's good and that's bad. When you read those, I would tell people, read more than one to get a pulse of it. You see very often, some people that are just whining because it wasn't perfect, and everything isn't perfect. And there's some people that have legitimate concerns. Before I do business with somebody, when I have the opportunity, I look at reviews and I weigh them accordingly. And a bad review doesn't mean I won't do business with somebody. It just means I go in knowing potentially what to expect. And I think that these reviews help us as consumers go out and do better business. And I think the reviews hopefully drive businesses to be better when they are proper reviews. And I hope it drives them to ultimately turn their workers into partners in the business and just have different levels of partnerships from owners on down. And everybody is a spokesperson. Everybody does a little bit of everything. And it's so important that everybody feels valued at the business and everybody feels that they're making a valuable commitment to the business and it to them. And if we can get more of this, work will be better. All this culture of hurry up and rush and sell things cheaper and people as a commodity. We saw it when automation started to push us further. We saw it in the 80s and the 90s. We saw workplace violence just went up. One of the most automated places that there was at the time, the post office. We saw the pressure drove people to shoot each other and harm each other in different ways. A term came out of it, going postal. It became so well known that this is what was happening. And then what happened was it kind of went a little by the wayside, but it left the post office because of whatever corrective processes that they took. It went away, but we saw it pop up other places. We see people going back to jobs. They are so frustrated, and they felt so unheard and so neglected, and they're so angry and vindictive and mad. And there was no outlet there to communicate that, and they go back and they want to do harm for their coworkers. This is the cost of not listening. This is the cost of poor leadership, bad management, invisible supervisory skills, and thuggish bosses. These are the costs that we pay. And ultimately, this disconnect has trickled all the way down to where it can be a loss of life at times, not just a loss of business, not just a loss of an employee. I don't think any employee goes into a job wanting to leave it. I think if you hire the right people and you hire them the right way, that they will stay and they want to stay. It's difficult for a dedicated employee to leave. I've seen companies where only bad people and new people stay. Companies with dramatic turnover that won't bat an eye to say, oh, we've got 70% turnover or 80% turnover. Like, that's not normal. That can't be healthy. So why aren't we trying to fix these things? They're simple. People have to treat people with dignity and respect. People have to listen to people. People have to value people's opinions, their concerns, and their beliefs. And we have to be transparent, and we have to communicate. And we need to try our best to care. And if you can't care, at least communicate. Do this often, treat everyone equally, and you will be on the road to fixing the problems at your place of work. Now, as for the employee end, because it's not like nothing's on the employees, but talked about that before, and I wanted to talk about the employer side. But just go over stuff that's been said in the past about employees. Show up. If you cash a check, do the job. Don't try and game the system. Don't begrudgingly be there. Be the best employee you can be, and let them know it. Do your job well. And if they won't let you be the best that you can be, and they won't let you continue to grow in the job, then you go somewhere else that will. So everybody needs to work together, because we're all in this together. Employees, employers, consumers. It's a cycle. We need each other to survive. We need each other to thrive. We need each other to live. We need to keep on top of it. We need to make sure that we are all doing the best that we can all the times, treating everyone with respect, everyone with dignity, and acknowledging the good and addressing the bad, so that companies can move forward and we as people can feel fulfilled in what we do, and as a country we can grow and be the great workers that we once were and still can be, if we push forward and do the best that we can. Thanks for listening. See you next week. I'm Mark Hopkins, and you've been listening to another episode of Unsung. Stay safe.